Welcome back to Dynamics. Okay, so I'm going to try not to let this one get away from me, but I'm going to do the platform for Trump. I do think I'm going to get this posted before the debate, so I may make some adjustments to my scheduling of the videos to try to get this out before the debate. But we shall see. And I'm going to try not to let this one get away from me, so that it should be a reasonably length video. Even though there's a lot to cover, he has a large platform on his website, very possibly splitting it into two videos, but not beyond that. I'm going to do my best to keep everything under control and not focus too much time on certain topics versus other topics. Okay, so let's take a look at it. Sorry about that. Wasn't quite sure how I wanted to handle that. Okay, so rebuild the greatest economy in history. He's very bombastic, obviously. He doesn't. He's very boastful and exaggerates a lot. So it looks like it's happening here too. All right, rebuild the greatest economy in history. President Donald J. Trump passed record-setting tax relief for the middle class, doubled the child tax credit, and slashed more job-killing regulations than any administration had ever done before. Real wages quickly increased as a result, and median household income reached the highest level in the history of our country, while poverty reached a record low. President Trump created nearly 9,000 opportunity zones to revitalize neglected communities. President Trump produced a booming economy, recovery, and record low unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, and women. Joe Biden is the destroyer of American jobs and continues to fuel runaway inflation with reckless big government spending. President Trump's vision for America's economic revival is lower taxes, bigger paychecks, and more jobs for American workers. Oh, good. Okay, so it looks like even though there's a lot of topics, it looks like they're not going to a whole separate website. The amount that I'm going to have to read should be substantially less than RFK's, which was a great platform. It was a lot. Okay, so let's touch on it a little bit. The tax cuts were amazing. He needed to do more. He needed to do more as far as simplifying the tax code, eliminating loopholes, reducing tax rates is great. And he needs to do more of that in his second term, get us to an even better place. Doubled the child tax credit, in part did that by eliminating the exemption or putting the personal exemption in with the standard deduction. We talked about this during the RFK platform video. He rolled in the personal exemption and spousal exemption into the standard deduction and converted the child exemption into the child tax credit and the other dependent credit. So he did increase the size of it. I believe part of that has expired, if I'm not mistaken, and they do need to extend that or create a new one, if they want to continue with that child tax credit, replacing the exemption. Okay. And then 9,000 opportunity zones, not quite sure what he means by those, but okay. He did have a economy that was recovering and doing strong up until COVID hit. His record low unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women was really just record low unemployment for everybody, which is great. And Joe Biden has basically ruined all of this. Now, it started with COVID, but Biden has made it worse and has not improved anything other than improving the worse that he made it, in certain situations, not even in all. So yes, we had 8 years of Obama. He was never able to get things recovered. The recovery didn't start until Trump, and a lot of people try to give credit for Obama, but he had 8 years, so you would think that during his second term we would have started to see this recovery. We didn't. We didn't start seeing it until Trump started making changes and improving things. And then COVID hit, So 3 years of Trump's success, COVID hit, things got worse, spending kind of got out of control, so he needs to make sure he doesn't do that again. Because he can't really brag about cutting spending. He increased spending, especially in that third or fourth year of his term. And then Biden continued with that and continued to make it worse and worse and worse. So there we go. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Oh, hey, okay, so it's like that. All right, I don't have to do the back. I can just kind of... Fair trade for American workers. Donald Trump recognized long before he became president that we cannot have free and open trade for some countries. Open trade if some countries exploit the system at the expense of others. President Trump replaced decades of calamitous multinational trade blunders with fair and reciprocal trade that returned jobs, wealth, and manufacturing to America. He canceled the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership, replaced NAFTA nightmare with groundbreaking USMCA, and renegotiated the one-sided South Korea deal. President Trump confronted unfair trade practices, imposed tariffs on China that brought millions of dollars into the federal treasury, expanded American agriculture, and opened thousands of new factories. President Trump will implement a 4-year national reshoring plan so that the United States no longer needs to rely on China for essential medical and national security goods, and ban Chinese ownership of all critical infrastructure in the United States. We will bring back our supply chains and build America into the manufacturing superpower of the world. Okay, not a huge fan of tariffs. Tariffs were needed, though. China and some other countries, we need a situation where basically if they assert a tariff, we should assert the same tariff, tit for tat, and then encourage them in that way to not assert them on us. So getting more of a fair, equal trade deal type situation. We do need to make sure that while allowing trade and not having government limit trade between the private sector and other countries, we need to make it so that the United States is producing these things so that we are not required to trade for them. We need to rebuild our supply chains. We need to rebuild our manufacturing and rebuild our economy, create jobs, all of those things by returning to a situation where if America did need to not rely on other people for trade, that we would be okay and we would be able to produce our own goods. That is a great goal and something that we need more progress on. All right, next. Unleash energy dominance. Under President Donald J. Trump's leadership, the United States became the #1 producer of oil and natural gas on Earth, achieving American energy independence in delivering historically low costs for oil, gas, diesel, and electricity to consumers and businesses. President Trump unlocked our country's God-given abundance of oil, natural gas, and clean coal. He approved the Keystone XL and Dakota Access pipelines, opening federal lands and offshore areas for responsible oil and gas production, and ending the unfair and costly Paris Climate Accord. Joe Biden reversed the Trump energy revolution and is now enriching foreign adversaries abroad. President Trump will unleash the production of domestic energy resources, reduce the soaring price of gasoline, diesel, and natural gas, promote energy security for our friends around the world, eliminate the socialist Green New Deal, and ensure the United States is never again at the mercy of foreign supplier of energy. Things were getting better. Now they're getting worse again. It's another example of, it was better before and he can make it better again if he is made president again. Some of these things were great. We do need to be careful when we do these pipelines, and we do need to make sure that they're held accountable with making sure that spills and those sorts of things, that they're not polluting the lands. Make sure they're routed in the most in the best possible way to avoid any sort of impacts on the natural environment, those sorts of things. Those all are very important, and we can do those things while still having the energy pipelines and the energy resources that we need. All right. Making quick progress. Good stuff. Secure borders and reclaim national sovereignty. President Donald J. Trump created the most secure border in U.S. history. He ended catch and release, took down human traffickers, deported record numbers of illegal alien gang members, and built 450 miles of powerful new wall. Joe Biden turned our country into one giant sanctuary for dangerous criminal aliens when he suspended all immigration enforcement in the middle of a global pandemic and reversed landmark agreements that safely returned asylum seekers to Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. The onslaught of illegal aliens invading our wide-open borders threatens public safety, drains the treasury, undermines U.S. workers, and burns schools and hospitals. President Trump will shut down Biden's border disaster. He will again in catch and release, restore remain in Mexico, and eliminate asylum fraud. In cooperative states, President Trump will deputize the National Guard and local law enforcement to assist with rapidly removing illegal alien gang members and criminals. He will also deliver a merit-based immigration system that protects American labor and promotes American values. I like the way that RFK Jr. goes about expressing these positions better than the way that Trump goes about expressing these positions. But don't mistake me, they're very similar. Okay? And when you read RFK's, it sounds sweet, very nice, but firm. This sounds just mostly firm. But they basically have the same policies, and I support them. All right, moving on. War on the drug cartels. Okay. President Donald J. Trump marshaled the full power of government to stop deadly drugs, opioids, and fentanyl from coming into our country. As a result, drug overdose deaths declined nationwide for the first time in nearly 30 years. Joe Biden has allowed drug cartels to wage war on America, steal innocent lives, and ravage our communities. President Trump will take down the drug cartels just as he took down ISIS. He will impose a total naval embargo on cartels, order the Department of Defense to inflict maximum damage on cartel leadership and operations, designate cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and choke off their access to the global financial system. President Trump will get the full cooperation of neighboring governments to dismantle the cartels, or else expose every bribe and kickback that allows these criminal networks to preserve their brutal reign. He will ask Congress to ensure that drug smugglers and traffickers can receive the death penalty. When President Trump is back in the White House, the drug kingpins and vicious traffickers will never sleep soundly again. Okay. Not a fan of the death penalty. I've made that clear before. The war on the drug cartels makes more sense than the war on drugs. So hopefully that is his intention and that is his meaning. Combating the drug cartels in large part due to securing the border is the first huge step. And trying to make it so that they have less, that they can move across the border because there's a need for it because it's illegal. Such as fentanyl and, what were the other ones that he said here? Fentanyl, opioids, those sorts of things. But by streamlining the process of removing drugs from that list, we don't need them to be able to ship marijuana. We can make that legal, and we can make that something that's not necessarily part of that money-making scheme that the cartels have. Moving on. Stop crime and restore safety. There's no higher priority than quickly restoring law and order and public safety in America. President Trump stands with the heroes of law enforcement. Joe Biden and the radical left politicians have defunded, defamed, and dismantled police forces across America. Murders spiked to all-time highs in Democrat-run cities, and radical prosecutors and district attorneys have given free rein to violent criminals who threaten our citizens. The streets of our once great cities are now controlled by gangs and cartels and plagued with mentally ill and drug-addicted homeless. President Trump will revitalize police departments and reclaim safety, dignity, and peace for law-abiding Americans. He will deliver record funding to hire and retain police officers, strengthen qualified immunity and other protections for police officers, increase penalties for assaults on law enforcement, put violent offenders and career criminals behind bars, and surge federal prosecutions and the National Guard into high crime communities. I'm what I would consider strong on crime, but some of these things are just not the right direction, not the right path. Strengthening qualified immunity, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Hiring more police officers, sure, yeah, we do need some more, but retraining them, as it says hire and retrain. They need to be retrained. They need better training, better practices. Making assaults on police officers tougher crimes. That I'm all for that. Criminalizing certain protest type behaviors, I'm all for that. But we need to actually streamline the criminal system. So streamlining crimes and making less things criminal activities to begin with, so you can take the burden off of, especially these non-violent, victimless crimes that seem to be taking up most of the police force's time. That's what I think on that. Okay, moving on. Renew American strength and leadership. President Donald J. Trump replaced the failed policy of never-ending war, regime change, and nation building with a bold vision to pursue peace through strength. He fully rebuilt American military might, modernized our nuclear arsenal, and launched the Space Force. He obliterated 100% of the ISIS caliphate, killed its founder and leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and eliminated the world's #1 terrorist, Qasem Soleimani. President Trump kept America out of new wars and brought thousands of brave troops home from Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, and many other countries. Joe Biden has undermined our military readiness and surrendered our strength to the Taliban. President Trump will defend America against all these threats, protect America against all dangers, and keep America out of unnecessary foreign wars. He will also get Biden's radical left ideology out of our military and rehire every patriot who is unjustly fired. To protect our people from the threat of nuclear weapons and hypersonic missiles, President Trump will also build a state-of-the-art next-generation missile defense shield. Okay, couple things. I like RFK's stance on these things a little bit better, but Trump did a great job while he was in office of a couple of things. One, definitely not starting any new wars. He did a great job with that. He projected strength. When he needed to eliminate a threat or retaliate, he did so decisively, and there was more peace around the world. This is the way that these things need to be handled. Although he could have pulled more of our troops back, he could have done more to strengthen our border defenses, strengthen our defense of our coasts, our defense at home. There's a lot more that he could have done, and we will see if he does that moving forward. But one of the things that I do think he will do better is ratcheting down the tensions around the world. With Biden, no one has any concerns about ratcheting up tensions. There's nothing they're worried about when it comes to Biden. He will retreat, and he will show weakness at every opportunity. Trump, you're not going to have that, and I think that he will bring the world back into more of a peaceful order as it was during his term. All right. Let me grab a quick drink. I'm rushing through these. I may be able to get this done in one video. Okay. Reject globalism and embrace patriotism. All right. President Donald J. Trump forged international cooperation among strong, sovereign, and independent nations to create a future of peace, prosperity, and the promise for the world. He combated radical Islamic terrorism, withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal, and suspended travel and refugee resettlement from the world's most dangerous regions. He recognized Israel's true capital and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem and acknowledged Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. As a result of his bold diplomacy, and principled realism, President Trump brokered 4 Middle East peace deals collectively called the Abraham Accords. And our our NATO allies agreed to pay $400 billion more in defense spending. Joe Biden's humiliating defeat in Afghanistan has emboldened rogue regimes, terrorist groups, and rivals like China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran that were in retreat. Under President Trump, we will restore our standing in the world and American leadership abroad. And this is kind of what I was talking about previously. Just restore that order, establish more of a strength position without going out and fighting wars, right? And he did. He encouraged peace around the world. We were talking with North Korea. We got Israel talking with its neighbors. There was so much more, in the direction of peace, and I don't see how anybody can see that has gotten worse under Biden. It just, for some reason, the party that is supposed to be anti-war, the Democratic Party, has just fully embraced this party of war. And they desperately want war in Ukraine. They desperately want war in Israel. They desperately want war with China, apparently, it seems. And, I just don't understand why that is the direction we've moved in. I think President Trump has the right mindset to pull us back from the brink of that. World War III, as it were. All right. Oh, also getting out of the Iran nuclear deal was amazing, and getting the other countries to spend more on their own defense, amazing. Care for our veterans. While Washington politicians pour precious American blood and treasure into misguided military adventures overseas, those who proudly wore our nation's uniforms were dying, waiting for medical care at home. President Donald J. Trump passed the largest reform of the Department of Veterans Affairs in generations, including VA accountability and VA choice, and fired 11,500 federal workers who failed to give our wounded warriors the quality and timely care they so richly deserve. He secured record funding for mental health services and expanded access to telehealth and suicide prevention resources. To secure the blessings of freedom for those who risk their lives to defend it, President Trump decreased veteran homelessness, increased educational benefits, and achieved record low veteran unemployment. We will fight to serve our veterans with better care and benefits than ever before. And, this is all true. These are all things that he did while he was president. We need to do more, especially on the mental health front, and hopefully we will see more of that moving forward, in the next term. Okay. Moving on. Protect parents' rights. President Donald, here, where are we? Oh, wow, yeah. I think we got this in one video, guys. President Donald J. Trump fought tirelessly to expand charter schools and school choice for America's children. He secured permanent funding for historically black colleges and universities and protected free speech on college campuses. Now Joe Biden and the radical left are using the public school system to push their perverse sexual, racial, and political material on our youth. President Trump will cut federal funding for any school or program pushing critical race theory or gender ideology on our children. His administration will open civil rights investigations into any school district that has engaged in race-based discrimination. President Trump will veto the sinister effort to weaponize civics education, keep men out of women's sports, and create a credentialing body to certify teachers who embrace patriotic values. President Trump will reward states and school districts that abolish teacher tenure for grades K-12 and adopt merit pay, cut the number of school administrators, adopt a parental bill of rights, and implement the direct election of school principals by the parents. There's a huge thing missing from this. I did like a lot of what he said. I think he's more on the right path than, say, Chase Oliver, who is the candidate for my political party, the Libertarian Party. I like his positions on these things. What I did not hear about is school choice. School choice should be a top issue for all of these candidates. Unfortunately, it is not. That is something that would go a long way into fixing the problems in this country, and it should be a higher priority. And he's talking about education, so it should definitely be there. And parents' rights, the main crux of this whole position. Parents should have the ultimate rights when it comes comes to their children, as long as they are not hurting their children. And I mean like physically hurting their children. This idea that parents don't have a right to raise the children in the method that in the way that they see best, is just ridiculous to me. And to say that schools should be able to keep secrets from parents and those sorts of things is just wrong, outright wrong. All right. Defend law and liberty. President Donald J. Trump appointed nearly 300 federal judges to interpret the Constitution as written and preserve the extraordinary vision of our founding fathers. He did a great job on this. This is one of the reasons why I'm highly leaning towards voting for him. He confirmed 3 strong constitutionalists to the United States Supreme Court who will ensure the law is upheld equally, fairly, and without political prejudice for all of our citizens. President Trump's 3 appointees delivered the biggest win for our life and a generation in overturning Roe v. Wade and expanding the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. President Trump will continue to nominate highly qualified prosecutors, judges, and justices who believe in enforcing the law, not their own political agenda. He will also defend your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, and uphold your religious liberty, including the constitutional right to pray in public school. All right, so a couple of things. He did a great job nominating judges, especially at the Supreme Court level. I agree that the Supreme Court made the right decisions when it came to the right to bear arms and Roe versus Wade. I don't see all of their rulings being perfect, but that's fine. We're not going to be able to agree on everything, and they're looking at it from a different perspective than I am, and so that's something that everybody else needs to consider too. Just because you disagree with a ruling doesn't mean that they did something unethical or wrong. And oftentimes the left is attacking them as being unethical and wrong because they disagree with the ruling. We need to protect our justices. We need to enforce rules about protesting outside of justices' homes and judges' homes. But I also think that we could, instead of enforcing a code of ethics, which seems to be a left-wing push these days, they don't want ethics on themselves, but they would like ethics on judges. We could look at a compromise of term limits across the board. So term limits for congressional employees, term limits for government employees, and a term limit on the lifetime term for justices. So they wouldn't be able to get renominated or get reelected or anything like that. But maybe instead of lifetime, it could be 20 years or whatever it happens to be. Maybe some sort of compromise like that would be a great way to kind of rein in their power a little bit, because they do have a lot of power as a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. Okay. What else? Is there another thing here I wanted to touch on? The Roe versus Wade thing, that was a success. Getting Roe versus Wade overturned, returning the power to the states. We need to encourage the states to limit the that line where they're allowing abortions, or in what circumstances they're allowing abortions. We need to encourage the states, but it should be up to the states. This is not something that should have a federal mandate. There should not be a national law that requires access to abortion or forces abortion to be illegal in all cases. That sort of extreme positions on both sides, right? We need to leave it up to the states, but we can encourage them to roll back that line and limit the scenarios where abortion is acceptable. In censorship and reclaim free speech, President Trump is absolutely committed to dismantling and destroying the left-wing censorship regime. If we don't have free speech in America, then we will no longer be a free country. President Trump's plan includes firing any federal bureaucrat who has engaged in censoring the lawful speech of American citizens, banning taxpayer funds from being used to categorize lawful speech for purpose of illicit censorship, banning federal agencies from censoring speech, stopping federal funding for all nonprofits and academic programs engaged in censorship, passing a digital bill of rights and enacting landmark legislation to drastically limit the ability of big social media platforms to restrict free speech. By restoring free speech, we will begin to reclaim our democracy. It's a huge thing that we need to focus on. The government just needs to not get involved, and then free speech will there will be more free speech if the government stays out of the issue. Part of the reason why we had so many violations of free speech leading up to the 2020 election was because the government's involvement in the big tech organizations, the big the social media platforms, right? But if we eliminated their protections, or at least just kept the government out of the trying to use them to block people's right to free speech, then I think we would have a better situation. We're seeing it with Twitter. We see it with Rumble, not so much on YouTube. Apparently they're going to be attacking content creators who want to live stream the debate tomorrow. That's frustrating. So watch it on Rumble, because that's where I'm going to be watching it. All right. Free, honest, and lawful elections. President Donald J. Trump is committed to the honesty of our elections and integrity of our republic. We will reform our election laws to verify the identity and eligibility of all voters to ensure faith and confidence in all future elections. We will pass a bold range of critical election integrity measures that include banning unsecure drop boxes and ballot harvesting. State and local officials cannot be permitted to make illegal and unconstitutional changes to election procedures without the required approvals by the state legislatures. Very importantly, we must ban private money from pouring into local elections. Okay. Some of these things are blown out of proportion, but changes and improvements to the process are always welcome, in my opinion. The focus should be on getting the government out of the big tech platforms, which is the real reason that 2020 election was stolen. The 2020 election was stolen because of violations of free speech leading up to the election, specifically with the Hunter Biden laptop story, which has been since proven to be a legitimate thing. The Hunter Biden laptop was legitimate, and they lied and said that it was not, and they used the social media platforms to hide the story, basically. That alone would have caused the election to have gone to Donald Trump, and that should be the focus. However, fixing some of these issues with the actual elections, trying to limit the amount of mail-in ballots, to create more of a ability to vote on election day, create maybe even a federal holiday, expand hours, maybe make it an election, a 2-day period, if there is high population areas, or at least create enough voting precincts so that there are not long lines, these sorts of things to make voting in person a much better system. We need to be able to protect our election system with voter IDs that don't have to be paid for, so it wouldn't be a burden on the voters themselves. We could, they don't have to be paid for by the voter. We could have it be a government-provided ID. A free ID would then make it so that everybody would also have this additional new ID that they could use instead of having to go out and get some sort of other identification if they don't have a valid driver's license, that sort of thing. Having ID to vote is not a problem in and of itself, but maybe the implementation, we need to look at that a little bit more. And we do see that happening more and more, and we see some places trying to pass laws that would provide voter identification to people. But yes, a lot of the vote-in mailing does need to be restricted. There's some people that need it, and if you pre-register and you get that sort of thing approved for your reasoning that you need it to be approved for, then that's fine, and we should be able to have that. But mass mail-in voting is just begging to be corrupted, and that's what we need to do. We just need to regulate. Of all the things that need to be regulated, our elections need to be regulated. But more important than any of that is making sure that people have freedom of speech, and making sure that stories are not suppressed by the government. All right, moving on. Drain the swamp of Washington corruption. President Donald J. Trump is committed to dismantling the deep state and restoring government by the people, just as he did during his administration. Well, see, the problem is he didn't. Very little, if any, and he needs to do better this time around. President Trump will conduct a sorry, I have this fly that just will not stop bothering me. I do apologize. Washington, D.C., President Trump will conduct a top-to-bottom overhaul of federal bureaucracies to clean out the rot and corruption of Washington, D.C. President Trump will push for a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. There you go. A permanent ban on taxpayer funding of campaigns, a lifetime ban on lobbying for former members of Congress and cabinet members, and a ban on members of Congress trading stocks with insider information. This is super important, but I want to take this opportunity. Luckily, this video has not gone super long. It's gone long, but not super long, but I'm going to be able to wrap it up in one instead of having two videos. But let me talk on this for just a little bit. We are hearing that President Trump may make his VP nomination known before the debate tomorrow. I hope he does. If he doesn't, that's fine. We will find out about it shortly. He needs to be looking at what he can get assistance on, because having just this weak vice president who doesn't really do anything is not going to get all this stuff accomplished. If you want someone who will clean out the bureaucracy, clean out the corruption, clean out the swamps, get these procedural things done and changed, I think Vivek Ramaswamy is the right choice. Vivek Ramaswamy. I apologize. I'm probably mispronouncing it like most people. He laughs it off, so he's good-humored about it. Vivek Ramaswamy, I think is how it's pronounced. He is the man for the job. I think as vice president, if President Trump wants someone who has more political experience, I understand that. And if he goes with someone else, that's fine. You make sure you have this guy in your cabinet or in a position where he has authority to start trying to help out with this, because I think he's the right guy for that position. And I think that's a position that would be good for a vice president to handle. So hopefully he picks him. We shall see. We will all find out together, I'm sure. All right. So let's take a look at this, cleaning out the swamp, deep state, doing all this stuff, eliminating federal bureaucracies, cleaning out the corruption, imposing term limits on Congress is great. Imposing term limits on Congress and Supreme Court justices would be even better. Nice compromise, too, to help get more people on board with getting it passed. Expand it out, though. Expand it out to these bureaucracies. Get a across-the-board ban on people working with inside the government. Maybe you can cut out an exception for military, of course. I think that would be something that could be done. Military, obviously you will be in the military or have a longer a longer term on military service, that sort of thing, so that you could retire from the military still. A permanent ban on taxpayer funding of campaigns, I'm completely okay with that. A lifetime ban on lobbying by former members of Congress, that would be amazing. And cabinet members. That one would be a little bit tougher because they're only a part of the cabinet for, maybe 4 years, maybe 8 years, but usually way less. And then a ban on members of Congress from trading stocks with insider trading. Just go ahead and make that a government across the board thing. And I think we got ourselves a deal. Because, that's definitely something that needs to be looked at more, and more needs to be done about it because they're enriching themselves. The biggest solution would just be giving them a term limit, and that would help immensely. But in general, they should not be able to use their positions to enrich themselves in that way, also causing harm to other people because they are impacting other people with their policies. All right, I think we have one more. Better healthcare choices at lower costs. President Donald J. Trump empowered American patients by greatly expanding healthcare choice, transparency, and affordability. He increased competition in the health insurance market, eliminated the Obamacare individual mandate, and signed the right to try that gives terminally ill patients access to life-saving cures. President Trump lowered drug prices for the first time in over 50 years and finalized the most favored nation rule to ensure that pharmaceutical companies offer the same discounts to the United States as they do to other nations. To save lives from the China virus, President Trump organized the production of the world's largest supply of ventilators and the development of treatments and vaccines. He will stop all COVID mandates and restore medical freedom in surprise medical billing, increase fairness through transparency, and further reduce the cost of prescription drugs and health insurance premiums. President Trump will always protect Medicare, Social Security, and patients with pre-existing conditions. Trump needs help on this issue. And if he gets that help from Ben Carson, or he gets that help from Rand Paul, he got railroaded with the whole COVID thing, through Fauci and through the other members of those departments, and he needs help. So hopefully he is looking into that. Hopefully him and Rand Paul partner up to be able to take on these issues. Hopefully he has Ben Carson in his cabinet actually involved with the health side of things instead of housing. That was weird. That was a weird choice in the first term. Not that Ben Carson wasn't a good choice and didn't understand housing. He was a smart man. He went through that process. But I think maybe you need someone with more medical experience in that, covering that sort of thing. Let's get this right this time. Hopefully we do. All right, so that's it. That's his platform. This video is long, but not as long as some of my videos in this series, and I don't have to go to a second one, so that's very good. I'm excited about the debate tomorrow. I will be doing videos on the debates. I will be doing a video talking about what happened at the debate. I'll be doing a video talking again about how other candidates should have been involved in the debate, and we'll see if there's any fallout that needs to be discussed. Is the debate going to be the catalyst to Biden finally being pulled from the election? We shall see. And yeah, it should be an interesting road moving into November. So let's look forward to more videos. Not nearly this long, though. I need some shorter videos, and I'm sure you guys do too. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good day.